Firefox has been accused of tracking users without their knowledge and consent. And there is a new lawsuit filed in Australia about this. And we're going to go ahead and chat about this today. Thanks for checking out this video by Switch to Linux. If you like privacy and computer stuff and Linux distributions and things like that, please feel free to subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Leave us a like and a comment down below. We're going to go ahead and get right on into this because I have a lot of things to say and we have a lot of tabs open here. So let's go ahead and dig into this a little bit better, shall we? So this is from Bleeping Computer. Is it Sergey Gatlin? Mozilla accused of tracking users in Firefox without consent. And so the European Digital Rights Group, None of Your Business, NOYB, has filed a privacy complaint with the Australian Data Protection Watchdog, DSB, against Mozilla, alleging the company uses a Firefox privacy feature enabled without consent to track users' online behavior. Now, here's the funny thing. If you follow Switch to Linux and you watch what we are doing, this is nothing new. We talked about this 2 months ago. So if you have not seen this video and you want some initial stuff, here it is. Did Firefox start collecting data for advertisers? Footnote, yes. But we're going to go ahead and get on into the report here. So this is called the PPA, Privacy Preserving Attribution. And so, of course, they are calling it the Privacy Preserving Attribution to make it sound really good. You know, kind of like United States laws keep on writing their laws to make it sound like it's doing something useful. But then when you dig into it, it's kind of doing the opposite. Well, Mozilla is doing the same thing. Of course, this is a standard that is being developed with the privacy-centric company Meta. Oh, wait. Yes, Mozilla is teaming up with a Meta of Facebook fame, who is one of the most egregious violators of privacy. So much so, I explicitly block every aspect of Meta on my company. Call me crazy. I do not want to give any data to a company who is at one hacker away. I'm sorry, not interested. Now, of course, you can use Facebook in safe ways, allegedly. I know there's people on this channel that know a lot about privacy that have Facebook accounts, and that's fine if you've made that your own personal decision. But to suggest that Meta is a company focused on user privacy is an absolutely absurd and laughable proposition. Nevertheless, Mozilla and Meta are teaming up. This was announced in February of 2022, and it was automatically enabled in Firefox version 128, which was 3 versions ago, roughly 2 months ago. And the origin of this video, I was doing something, I forget exactly what I was doing, but I was doing something which installed Firefox, and I was just jumped over to the settings to show really quick, and I'm like, what is this setting? I've never heard of this. And then we dug into it, and this is this. So at this point in time, I said, yeah, I'm going to start reading those Firefox release reports. But there actually wasn't a lot about this. It's kind of like they hit it under the radar in a way. So the privacy advocacy group says, contrary to its reassuring name, this technology allows Firefox to track user behaviors on websites. In essence, the browser is now controlling the tracking rather than the individual websites. So Mozilla thinks that this is a better improvement because instead of the website having a cookie, a cookie you can disable or delete or prevent or block, instead, the core browser itself in this nefarious under the hood code, I say that, but this is still an open source project. We know exactly what it's doing. In this code in the browser, it is collecting a bunch of data and then allegedly has a way of collecting the data. And the most curious thing in my research today, reading through all the technical documentations, even if you turn the thing off, it still does the whole collection report, but then it null values it rather than actually sending it. Kind of like what Ubuntu is doing, which we have criticized several times, where you install Ubuntu and it will collect all this stuff, and then you say, don't send the report, and then Ubuntu receives a report, hey, there's a new install, but he doesn't want to share the data. Yeah. So contrary, okay, we read that one. While this might be an improvement compared to the more invasive cookie tracking, the company never asked users if they wanted to enable it. Instead, Mozilla decided to turn it on by default once people installed a recent software update. Now, it would appear is that some people had it enabled by default, some people didn't. I think it might boil down to if you already had a previous version, it may not have enabled it. But if you did not have a previous version and you were installing it, it would enable it. I think that's probably what the breakdown is based on the comments here, but I don't know that for sure. Now, according to NOYB, PPA enables Firefox to store data on users' advertising interactions and bundle that information for advertisers. Mozilla claims this system enhances privacy by measuring ad performance without individual websites collecting personal data. They say that part of the tracking is done in Firefox, interfering with the user's rights under the EU's GDPR. And they list a couple of posts over here on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it this week. NOYB filed a complaint against Mozilla for quietly enabling a supposed privacy feature called privacy preserving attribution in Firefox. And then they respond to that. Firefox quietly enables a supposed privacy feature that tracks users. NOYB files the complaint today. And then there is a link, and we're going to look at what that link has to say. So Mozilla has just bought into the narrative that the advertising industry has a right to track users by turning Firefox into an advertisement measurement tool, says Felix. I'm going to call that Mikolash, data protection lawyer at NOYB, added. While Mozilla may have had good intentions, it is very unlikely that privacy-preserving attribution will replace cookies and other tracking tools. It is just a new additional means of tracking users. Which, by the way, if they have enough of this information and they still have the cookies, it is very possible to de-anonymize them. I mean, we just talked about the timing attacks on the Tor network a couple days ago. Similar principle, actually. We got all this data over here. It's directly tied to a cookie. We know who it is. Oh, look at the effectiveness of this. Oh, this must be this person here. Is that useful data? Maybe, maybe not. But nevertheless, it is much easier to de-anonymize data than you think. I mean, it's as simple as this, as I've seen it explained once. You know, they're like, we got the data on this diagnosis. We've stripped all personal information, but a cursory examination of a public Facebook profile will link that data that you received with a timestamp of some person who's identifying themselves and that exact diagnosis in that exact time. Really hard to de-anonymize this stuff, isn't it? But Mozilla still insists that this is a great thing. It even decides to gaslight us. It's quite exciting. The funny thing is this Bleeping Computer article does not even capture the worst of Mozilla's quotes in this process, which is very interesting. So they say Mozilla insists that PPA does not share browsing information with third parties, including the company itself, and that advertisers only receive an aggregated data report about ad performance. The quote, Mozilla quoting, the PPA does not involve websites tracking you. Instead, your browser is in control. Not you. You're not in control. Your browser's in control. That's a key word to keep in mind. This means strong privacy safeguards, including the option to not participate. It's the option to opt out, not the option to opt in. Of course, they justify that later on by actually calling us stupid morons. I got receipts. PPA does not involve sending information about your browsing activities to anyone. This includes Mozilla and the DApp partner, which is ISRG. This is the company behind Let's Encrypt, the free SSLs. So we got Meta, we got them, we got Mozilla. Maybe we just need to throw some Microsoft in here, maybe some TikTok for good measure. I mean, come on. Can we get any other people who are more egregious on privacy violations involved in this privacy protecting tool? I mean, really? So Firefox users can disable the feature by opening the browser's privacy and security settings and unchecking this option. So this is inside of your browsers. You go into your browser, you go into your settings, privacy and security, and then allow websites to perform privacy-preserving ad measurements. No, I do not want you to give any information to advertisers at all. The advertising industry can go jump off a cliff. Okay, preferably the Grand Canyon if we are choosing which cliff. And please send me rescue helicopters somewhere else for the day. I mean, really. So with that, of course, we go back once again. Are we saying that advertisements need to completely go away? No. Put contextual advertisements and be happy and content with the sales that you get. We're going to get to the bad stuff here soon. So the initial code was launched in 28. They say here it has not been activated and no end user data has been recorded or sent. This is what Mozilla is saying, but this is actually not true. I was surprised on camera once that this was installed and enabled already. Now we get down to the comments down here, and some people say this person's Firefox was never checked or allowed, so must not be all up-to-date Firefox browsers. This one, latest Firefox, both Windows 10 and Linux, have the setting disabled and grayed out. That could be a policy. Not checked in ours either. ESR, of course, doesn't have it yet. From the end of the article, it is only active on the development network. That's what Orange Blossom says, but that's actually not true either. These guys down here, mine was turned on in privacy settings, had to turn it off. Mine was turned on in privacy settings, had to turn it off on Windows 11. Also turned on in privacy settings, had to turn it off on 2 different Windows 10 computers, all computers in USA running production version 13.01 of Firefox. This is confirmed disabled, not on a developer install, and this guy asks if there is a registry setting to disable. And so it does appear as though, I think what we're seeing is if you install it, it'll be activated and enabled. But if you are upgrading to it, it probably is not enabled by default. That's my random guess. But I don't know for sure. I don't know why some people are seeing it installed and some people are not seeing it installed. But let's get into some of the other things. This is the actual NOYB actual announcement. I don't think there's a lot of new stuff in this one. But we'll go ahead and have a look at it. They filed a complaint against Mozilla for quietly enabling a supposed privacy feature. Contrary to its reassuring name, the technology allows Firefox to track user behavior on websites. In essence, the browser is now controlling the tracking rather than the individual websites, or individual users of the websites might be a better way to phrase that. In essence, the browser, okay, we did that one already. This might be an improvement compared to the cookie tracking, but the company never asked users if they wanted to enable it. Instead, Mozilla decided to turn it on by default once people installed a recent software update. That I don't know if that's completely true or not. This is particularly worrying because Mozilla generally has a reputation for being privacy-friendly alternative when most other browsers are based on Google Chromium. And that's what's the saddest part about this, is because we need Mozilla and Firefox to stay alive. It is the only lifeline to not having a web browser market completely dominated by Google. I realize there's a few other projects coming out right now, and if you have specific knowledge or links, please link those down below so people can investigate. I didn't actually research those for this video, but there are a few other alternatives in the early stages, so we will have a couple other ones. But the problem is that Mozilla is just going down bad path after bad path. Like, everything these guys are doing, every decision these guys are making is the complete opposite direction they should be going when they have a charter listing, your privacy is most important, we're just going to collect your data and send it to advertisers. No, piss off. No. So, Firefox follows Google. This is just allowing the thing. It's effectively the same thing that Google tried to do with the privacy sandbox system and the FLoC. It's effectively the same technology, in fact. That's still, it's less invasive, but still invasive. So what they do is we'll explain this here. So when you go onto a site now, right now, it's very limited. It's possible they're double speaking because the limited trial is just on right now one Mozilla ad for the Firefox VPN. So if you see the ad for the Firefox VPN, that is the ad that is being used to test the system. So if they see that ad, it will collect a series of data and it will determine if you have interacted with that in some way. So if you've clicked the ad, that's a conversion. If you've hovered over it for a long period of time, that's a conversion. And then they feed all this data back, and then they'll send one part of the data to Mozilla and one part of the data to the company. What's that company's name again? The one that is dealing with... who is it? Let's Encrypt. ISRG. So sending it out to there. And then they're dropping allegedly data, they're introducing a little bit of white noise, and then they're combining the data back together in such a way to make sure they can't figure out exactly who it is. Although if they have the other cookie data, they can probably still figure it out. So they say tracking by default, no information. To make matters worse, Mozilla has turned on its privacy-preserving attribute by default, and users have not been informed about this move other than they have released 3 blog posts about it, or 2 blog posts and a GitHub page. And I say the feature isn't even mentioned in Mozilla's data protection policies. The only way for users to turn it off is to find the opt-out feature in the submenu of the browser settings. And irritatingly, Mozilla developer justifies the move by claiming users cannot make the informed decision themselves. So here we have Big Daddy Mozilla is here to make our decisions for us, little boys and girls, because we are incapable of making these decisions for ourselves. So the lawyer once again says it's a shame that an organization like Mozilla believes that users are too dumb to say yes or no. Users should be able to make a choice, and the feature should have been turned off by default. And so they're asking the Australian Data Protection Authority to investigate Mozilla's behavior because they allege it as a clear violation of GDPR. Here is the guy. Wow, this is formatted differently than the screen I read it on. Anyway, let's go ahead and have a look. So this is Bas Schooten, I guess. Opt-ins are only meaningful if users can make an informed decision. I think explaining a system like PPA would be a difficult task, and most users complain about these types of interruptions. In my opinion, an easily discoverable opt-out option plus blog post is the right way for this decision. This guy needs to step away from Mozilla. He needs to leave. Get out of there. Get this guy out. He is a snake in the grass. He has just called your user base stupid. He has called your user base stupid. And in so doing, he has effectively said, we are the arbiters of the information you do. We are turning this on because it benefits. We're going to see a GitHub post that makes me want to need to buy a new monitor here soon. But I promise no monitors will be harmed in the production of this video. So maybe I need to show some proof of life at the end of this. I don't know. But anyway, this guy kind of says, if something is complicated, isn't your obligation to make it understandable? If they may not like it, if they understood it. Otherwise, it's just patronizing attitude that we know what's better for people. I was only able to find the blog post by knowing exactly the term PPA. And then it took about 10 tries. Yeah, because PPA is also a word used in Ubuntu. PPA in computers is not exclusive to Mozilla. So these guys probably should have named it something different as well. I think Ubuntu had the corner on that far before Mozilla. It's still unclear why it would be in my interest to enable it all. What benefit the option brings to Mozilla, or how that balances against whatever conjectured benefits there are to me. And we're going to learn really quick here what their alleged conjectured benefits to me happen to be, and they're quite terrifying. I think the obligation for informed consent is the opposite. If you do something I don't expect or understand, you shouldn't do it, rather than what you're saying, which is we will do something anyway and maybe sort of give you some information about it. And if they are diligently looking for it, I guess they can turn it off. So here he's like, and look at this. He searches for Firefox PPA. Look at this. How to install Firefox Deb on Ubuntu, not a snap. How to install Firefox ESR via PPA. Firefox ESR, this is the Deb package. Everything here is relating to Ubuntu PPAs because there is a long history of Ubuntu PPAs, and Firefox is one of those controversial packages in Ubuntu. So I think they had the really bad messaging here as well. There's some other discussions about not understanding how electric kettles work, but people use them anyway, and blah, blah, blah. Effectively, though, this guy is doubling down and saying, oh, you guys are stupid. You don't understand it. So we're going to be Big Brother. So this guy, he needs to leave the Mozilla project. Get him out. No, find another job somewhere else. With this attitude, your partners over at Meta might be a great place for you. Mozilla, Google, Palantir might be great. They really want this type of attitude at Palantir. I mean, just collect all the data. Clearview AI would be another career choice. Just please put out your resume. Get out of Mozilla. You need to leave Mozilla, honestly. So let's have a look at some of the technical details. And this, by the way, was updated 2 hours ago, but that didn't tell us exactly what was updated. I don't know. Maybe I can click this and see what it was. I don't know. Last updated 2 hours ago at the time I'm doing this video, right after all this controversy is out all over the place. And I am recording this video at 2:23 on Friday the 27th for full reference. And so they say that this is an experimental feature shipping in Firefox version 128. Although I illustrated that in Firefox 128, I saw it turned on some of my browsers. I forget if it was turned on my Endeavor OS system that's been set up for a while. I think it wasn't on that, but I think it was on the new Linux build that I installed. And that's why I think it's, if you just install Firefox, it's enabled. If you are upgrading to Firefox, it's not. That's probably the case, but I don't know for sure. So Mozilla is prototyping the feature in order to inform an emerging web standard designed to help sites understand how their ads perform without collecting data about individual people. By offering sites a non-invasive alternative to cross-site tracking, we hope to achieve significant reduction in this harmful practice across the web. To opt out, you can disable PPA by following these steps. So here is what is attribution? Attribution is how advertisers learn whether their advertising works. Attribution measures how many people saw an ad on the website and later visited the advertiser's website to do something the advertiser cared about. For example, maybe someone sees an ad for a sale on a product, then buys the product. Attribution counts for how many people do that. It's very important to advertisers. Sadly, tracking is the only way to perform attribution without the help from the browser. So the browser is controlling this now, not you, the browser. Tracking is terrible for privacy because it gets companies detailed information about what you do online, while Firefox includes many privacy protections that make it more difficult for sites to track you online, and hence tracking protection, total cookie protection, blah, 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 blah. Our hope is if we develop a good attribution solution, it will offer a real alternative to the more objectionable practices like tracking. No, you know what my objectionable practices are? Giving any data to an advertising company at all. Tell them to go screw themselves. I want you to spend money, throw an ad in front of me, and never know if I'm clicking it or not. Actually, I'm never even seeing it because I haven't seen an ad on the internet in a long time. How does privacy-preserving attribution protect my data? This is the technical thing. So websites that show you ads can ask Firefox to remember the ads. So Firefox is now collecting a giant database somewhere on your computer of all of the ads you've seen. Somewhere on your computer. So, you know, is that hackable? Is that like Windows Recall, where it's just stored in an SQL data, and so a malicious actor can go in and scrap that database? I mean, we know that stuff has never happened before. I mean, come on. But websites, the browser will now store this information. It stores information about an impression and information about the ad, including the destination website. Maybe they should use this to track down all of those malvertising campaigns. That'd be fun. No. We want to measure the effectiveness of the malvertising campaign. Let's improve the scammers and hackers' means of attacking your computers. Yes. Let's A/B test the malvertising campaigns. Yeah, sounds awesome. Sounds awesome, Firefox. Way to go, helping the scammers attack us. Kudos to you. All right. Firefox creates a report based on what the website asks, but it does not give the result to the website. Instead, Firefox encrypts the report and anonymously submits it using the distributed aggregation protocol to an aggregation service. So this is the ISRG. So your data is combined with other similar reports, and the destination website periodically receives summaries of the reports, including noise that prevents differential privacy. So they are doing a decent thing adding white noise into the system, which will muddle the ability to backtrack it. But at the same time, this is still collecting data in your browser, storing a list of ads you've seen, and the effectiveness on the browser itself, on your computer, my computer, that I do not agree to this. And then what it's going to do is it's going to send that data out to a third party. Now, even worse, we'll get into this in a bit here, but even if you have opted out, the browser is still collecting and storing that data. It's in their documents. I'll show you. What conditions is privacy preserving? How can I disable it? Right there. Switch to Google Chrome. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Come on, Mozilla. We need to keep you alive. Stop making stupid decisions. We need to keep you alive, Mozilla. All right. So here is from February 2022. This is one of the early one, privacy preserving attribution for advertising. Advertising provides critical support for the web. We've been looking to apply privacy preserving advertising technology to the attribution problem so the advertisers can get answers to important questions without harming privacy. Attribution is how advertisers know if their advertising campaigns are working, and attribution generates metrics that allow advertisers to understand how their advertising campaigns are performing. Related measurement techniques also help publishers understand how they are helping advertisers. So now we have the advertisers are benefiting, the publishers are benefiting through the attribution. Though the attribution is crucial to advertising, current attribution have terrible privacy practices. For the last few months, we've been working with a team from privacy-centric company Meta, great, at One Hacker Way, for a new proposal that aims to enable conversion measurements or attribution. So here it aims to provide advertisers with the ability to perform attribution while providing strong privacy guarantees. IPA has two key privacy preserving features. It uses multi-party computation to avoid allowing any single entry to learn about behavior, and they have some experience with this, blah, blah, blah. Second, it uses an aggregation system, which means it produces results that cannot be linked to individual users, except, if they talk about the brand new item they just bought on Facebook or something. So it's designed to provide a lot of flexibility for advertising businesses in terms of how they use the system. Notice all this benefit for the advertisers. I think that they probably got called out for this at some point in time because some of the future documents will talk about the benefits to us. Are you ready for the benefits to us? This is just a little bit more about how it works. So here is from August of 2024, just a couple months ago, after I did my latest video, or maybe right around the time I did the video. Internet has become a massive web of surveillance. Yes, Mozilla, you're helping it, actually. And with advertisers and advertising platforms collecting detailed information about people online, at Mozilla, we believe this information belongs only to the individual or our browser and the SQL database that we don't know where it's storing or whatever else it's doing. So anyway, this is an unacceptable violation of privacy. Yes, I agree. We have deployed and continue to deploy advanced anti-tracking technology in Firefox, but believe the ecosystem will continue to develop novel techniques to track users as long as they have strong economic incentive to do so. Yeah, so don't help them. Okay. Deeply concerned about developments in some jurisdictions to restrict all anti-tracking features in browsers. In a world where regulators have to balance competing interests, it's dangerous to have advertising and privacy in a zero-sum conflict. No, I want zero information going to advertising companies. They can throw contextual ads on the website, and they can reap the profits that they are supposed to get. Okay? Easy. To address these threats to user privacy while advancing Mozilla's mission. I think they're compromising Mozilla's mission here. We are developing a new technology called privacy preserving attribution. Technology aims to demonstrate a way for advertisers to measure overall ad effectiveness without gathering information about the users. So here is just basically the technology behind it. These are things we all talked about. We have the distributed aggregation protocol. DivvyUp is the one that they are using with ISRG from Let's Encrypt. So here is again how it works. Instead of exposing individual browsing activity to see who sees an ad, PPA uses mathematics to keep consumer information private. When a user interacts with an ad or advertiser, a record of the interaction is split between two indecipherable pieces on their device, each of which are encrypted and then sent to two independently operated services. If it's producing this database in two separate files, that's better than, what Recall was doing for sure. But at the same time, I don't want my computer storing any extra data that I don't want. So they talk about data encryption here. So when a user interacts with an ad or advertiser, an event is logged in the browser in the form of a value. It's then split into partial indecipherable pieces and encrypted. Each piece is addressed to a different entity, one using DivvyUp and one to Mozilla, so that no single entity receives possession of both pieces. and then they mask it all up. They aggregate all the data together. They do randomization, adding some white noise, and then DivvyUp and Mozilla then send their indecipherable values in aggregate to the advertiser, leading a combined statistics of interest. This aggregate statistic across all users does not reveal any information about the user. So that's what they are saying. So here it has rules of the road. One of the critical considerations was alignment with the privacy legislation, such as the GDPR, which, of course, this organization is saying they're violating, which I think they probably are. Data minimization. The information reported by the browser follows strict data minimization. The only information included in the report is single bounded histogram. I think it should have none at all. And then undetectable opt-out. This is where it gets interesting. When the PPA is inactive, it accepts attribution reports from sites and then silently discards them. This means the sites are unable to detect whether an individual has either enabled or disabled PPA. The measure prevents discrimination or fingerprinting by sites on the basis of the feature's availability. So even if you turn it off, they're saying this isn't a problem, although other people are saying if you turn it off, this is a problem. Very interesting. But it still collects all of the data, but then silently discards them. Silently discards them into an SQL file, or silently discards them into nowhere, in which case you're collecting data you don't have a business collecting. I don't know. I'm okay if you say take your advertising analytics crap and shove it somewhere, preferably where the sun don't shine. Here's the prototype user. Next step, of course, they're kind of rolling this out, and they're saying that there's a lot of conflicting information here, because they're saying it's only turned on developers. No, it's only turned on developer advertising. Developers of this network are turning it on. You as the user apparently will have it turned on, and that's kind of the way they want it. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Here's Mozilla Explainers, the PPA experiment, last edited again last month. We could probably see the history of it. I don't know if I want to do that necessarily. Okay, so it looks like this is created in June with the last update last month. This is where it gets really interesting. So here's the end user benefits. We're going to skip the whole top part. Mostly it's things we've already said. Benefit to the advertisers. We're working with the privacy-focused company Meta, blah, blah, blah. And then end user benefit. Are you ready for how you, as the end user, benefits? Users largely benefit indirectly from the use of API. That's a hard fact, but it's an important one. Any benefit people derive from this feature is indirect. The sites they visit are often supported by advertising. Making advertising better makes it possible for more sites to function using support that advertising provides. We are going to see better ads, everybody. We are going to get ads that breed discontent in our soul and cause us to spend money that we probably shouldn't be spending on crap because it keeps on giving it to us over and over and over. Think of that, folks. We are going to benefit by getting better advertising. Thank you, Mozilla. I so wanted better advertising that more conforms to my particular interests based on your draconian spying on the system that for a privacy browser should never have happened. Really. Our view is that the costs that people incur as a result of supporting attribution is small. These costs are CPU, network, and battery costs for generating support. I thought we were trying to save the planet here. We are using unnecessary power to collect all of this data and send it up. Mozilla, you are destroying the planet. What are you doing? Here are the costs. Here, this cost is negligible, particularly relevant to what sites already has to use. It's not negligible. I'm on battery power here. I have a finite amount of power. I can only run this computer I am running this on for a maximum of 10 hours a day. If I start the day with a full power and I have cloudy skies like we have right now, I have an absolute maximum of 10 hours, probably closer to 5 hours of running this computer if I do not have an external power source. Guess what? That's a lot of power because I can run a lot of other stuff except for this particular computer. So privacy loss from use of other information, use of their information, attribution information will be aggregated and will include noise that protects them. Oh, they're going to protect us. Great. In comparison, the indirect benefits are likely to be significant. The value that an advertiser gains from attribution is enormous. The advertisers are getting helped again, folks. Attribution can be the difference between an advertising dependent business surviving or failing. If you need to survive on an advertisement model, maybe you need to fail. Let's just let some more of these companies fail. Those that provide real usable service will succeed. The market will take care of itself. What is this communist propaganda from this foundation sitting here thinking that we don't even have the capabilities of making our own decisions, saying, oh, we got to protect these guys. You got to give electricity of your own to provide enough better advertising so this company can stay alive. Come on, if this company dies, a valuable asset will be lost, like Temu. God. If advertisers do not need to track people for attribution, it makes it easier for us to identify and stop tracking. If you think advertisers are ever going to stop tracking individual users, you are stupider than this article is. This is retarded. If you think an advertiser, oh my, Firefox has solved our problem. We get effective analysis of this. No, they want every bit of data on every bit of person so they can buy and sell and trade and monetize and monetize and monetize. And that is why we need to get back to those campaigns for an ad-free life. Screw your advertising. If I don't know about your product because I haven't seen your ad, I don't care. Because I live a content life. I don't live my life getting discontented by every ad that is popping up every 5 seconds, inducing ADD inside of my wretched brain cells. No, not happening. First point here is hard to measure objectively, but we have at least one example to draw on. Most famously, Meta. Remember, Meta, the privacy foundation Meta, who they're teaming up with. They reported a $10 billion losses as a result of Apple's ad tracking. I'm playing the world's smallest violin for Meta's loss of $10 billion. I guess Mark Zuckerberg will not be able to buy the 8th block out from the core of his house. Yes, look it up. He has purchased several blocks around his primary residence, so nobody can set data tracking or anything else up within a perimeter of his house. We have deprived Mark Zuckerberg from another block away. We have deprived Mark Zuckerberg of building. What was the project he was working on? Some stupid project. Oh yes, the 7-foot-tall bronze statue of his woman that has overtones of Nebuchadnezzar. Please, whenever you hear the trumpets, bow down, or we're going to cast you into a fiery furnace. I am so saddened that Meta lost $10 billion because Apple did something fairly smart with ad tracking. Play that violin again, folks. Play that violin. Yeah. So here's the experiment operation. These are all things we've basically already talked about. This is actually how it works. So you can see some of the factors here. And I want to get down to the very bottom. Here's opt out. The feature will be enabled by default with an option to disable. Having this enabled for more people ensures there are more people contributing to the aggregates, which in turn improves the utility. Having this on by default both demands stronger privacy protections, primarily smaller epsilon values, and more noise. But it also enables those stronger protections because there are more people participating. In effect, people are hiding in a larger crowd. An opt-in approach might enable weaker protections, but we would not necessarily provide better data in exchange. Having more data means both better measurement accuracy and the ability to add more noise on per person basis, meaning better privacy. I have a much better way of doing privacy. Rip this crap entirely out of the browser completely and do away with this nonsense approach. This guy asked what happens on opt-out. Of course, that is actually answered down there. Maybe maybe one of the edits was to add this in, I guess. I don't know. But it says, could you describe more detail about what happens if we opt out? What methods could be used? More precisely, what will the return values of these be? So he's reading the code and saying, oh, that's interesting. When opted out versus the default enabled, is there an exception thrown? Also, how are opted out users protected against being detected? So this is where we talked about, it's going to continue to collect the data. It will just allegedly drop the data. So it doesn't do that. And this guy says, where is the option to disable this API plagueware to begin with? I have not read a more concise post of anything more than what Mozilla is right here doing. And that is another update, another follow-up. Once again, we did cover this months ago when it first came out, but sometimes some of these things lag behind. So once again, my channel got ahead of something in advance. So I don't know. Subscribe if you want to stay ahead of things, because we've called several things before they hit the mainstream. I got to tell you, man. But anyway, there is the None of Your Business organization filing a complaint with Australia's data protection policies of alleging violations of GDPR and the stuff about it. Now, does this mean we should abandon Firefox? Unfortunately, we need to keep this browser alive. It is on life support, and every single decision they're doing is stupid. It makes me want to get them the T-shirt that says Crap Creek Survivor. You hear that expression. It has a bad word in it. I'll just change it over for family friendliness because I like to do that. Up Crap Creek without a paddle. You've heard of that phrase. You gotta whale yourself back by rowing with your hands in a river full of defecation, right? Yeah, this is Crap Creek Survivor here. But the fact of the matter is, every decision they're doing is stupid. We need to get them back to the point to say, look, the advertising model itself is the problem. Stop feeding the beast. Return to no data collection capable, no data collection possible. Release a browser which has not even the technical capability of accessing a camera or a microphone or a geolocation or anything like that. Give us a streamlined browser that's nothing but a browser. That would be totally epic. Now, also for anybody else out there that's like, I just don't know if I can trust them at this point in time, LibreWolf and Mullvad browser both disable this nonsense by default. So if you want to stay in the Firefox ecosystem, because your alternative, you can jump right out of the frying pan into the fire. But if you do want to stick on this general ecosystem and don't necessarily want to be using Firefox, LibreWolf and Mullvad browser both have this disabled by default. There is what we have today. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more, and we will see you in the next video.